Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our newest edition of the EKN Debrief here on the EKN Radio Network. My name is Rob Howden, joined as always by David Cole, as we jump into episode number 48 of the Debrief, the podcast that we use to essentially review the event that we just traveled to. And in this particular edition, of course, a couple of weeks from our dual weekend double-double where David and I did 4 races over a 2-weekend stretch. He and I actually were trackside together for this particular event. And the one we're talking about, the 2019 SuperKarts USA Pro Tour Spring Nationals. This past weekend at the Utah Motorsports Campus in Erda, Utah, the track formerly known as Miller Motorsports Park. David and I trackside. We had an outside Cooper Tire Broadcast Center for this particular edition of the Pro Tour. We'll talk a lot about the weather, everything that happened. But as we jump in here on the EKN Radio Network, first we want to thank you all for joining in. We love that you're listening on to the EKN Radio Network, whether it's on your mobile device, your tablet, or maybe you're waiting off to listen to the downloadable podcast. Regardless, we love that you are listening into the debrief. Thank you so much. This week's show presented by the Rollison Performance Group. At the Rollison Performance Group, we strive for ultimate success. We're more than just an arrive and drive race team with countless wins in the national and regional level. Our focus is on complete driver development, and that's where the success is fueled. We combine one-on-one coaching, on-track instruction, and intensive data debriefing with unparalleled kart and engine prep. Our program will help you raise your game. We will take you to the next level. If that's your goal, RPG needs to be your next move. Well, David Cole, out of the frying pan into the fire, right? We wrap things up on Sunday in Utah for the SCUSA Spring Nationals. Right into the plane in Salt Lake City on Monday. I got home super late. I think we were home right around midnight when we got back here. You were close, I think, as well. And then, right back into the office. You got the debrief script written up, and away we go.
I kept myself busy Monday waiting for the plane and to take off, and then on the plane as well over to Detroit before hopping over to Grand Rapids. But it kind of blew by quickly. It was a quick weekend. I mean, that's what happens when you have 9 race groups and 12 categories racing over the 3 days. It just goes by really quick. There's not a lot of downtime, and then with the rain that hit Sunday after the final checkered flag, it kind of was a rush to get out of there.
Yeah, we were looking at potentially doing one of our Facebook Live Q&As again, but the sprinkles actually started kind of like during the final race. It never affected the race itself, but we were starting to get hit by some sprinkles. We were throwing some stuff on top of the laptops and the audio equipment because you and I were outside this weekend. We weren't able to get inside. They had the video marshaling system up in the race control building at Utah Motorsports Campus. So it was a little different for us as well, kind of harking back to last year at the Winter Nationals at NOLA when you and I are outside doing everything. And it's interesting how different, what a contrast that is for us during a race weekend as well, because you're dealing with the cold in the morning, you're dealing with the wind, you're dealing with the sun. I know that myself, you and Alicia, all sunburnt, windburnt, dry. It was a challenge for sure this weekend.
It at least gives us the sense of the weather conditions of what's going on outside, because sometimes you're it could be 100 degrees, but you're freezing inside the air conditioning because you never leave the scoring tower. So we've had incidences like that.
Phoenix when it was 104 degrees outside and I was underneath. I'm like sitting underneath the air conditioning vent with a sweater
looking for
on.
hot cocoa.
It was that. It was so cold in there. All right, let's start the overview of the Spring Nationals, the 10th edition of the race. Obviously, a milestone for SuperKarts USA. This is their 10th year of this national series, and I try to reiterate that when I'm talking on the PA and whatever it may be. Even when we did the podcast with Tom earlier this year. You think about the SuperKarts USA program. I've been doing this for 25 years now in this sport. I started essentially in 1993, 1994. And in that time, especially when I started focusing more on the U.S. stuff when I joined National Kart News in 97, this program, Dave, 10 years, and even you've seen it, 10 years, nothing's lasted this long. The industry likes to eat on itself, and it has. There was a SuperKarts USA Pro Moto Tour. It was great. And then this inner stuff in the paddock kind of fueled the launch of the Stars of Karting series. The Stars of Karting series went for a great handful of years, had some, developed some great drivers. It was, had Snap-on as a sponsor. Great program. Well, then failed buyout, then a rival series, and with CKI, Championship Karting International, I believe it was called. It lasted, 2 years, maybe 3 years. It was gone. Then there was a hiatus for a while, and then SCUSA picked things up again in 2010. David, you and I were there at Sonoma Raceway, the very first Spring Nationals, I think about 100 drivers, something like right around 100 drivers. So a milestone for sure for them to get into their 10th year and the 10th running of this race.
And you're talking in terms of series, because again, there are a number of events such as, the WK Daytona Kart Week and obviously the SCUSA Super Nationals, which is going into the 23rd edition. Now we're not talking just events. We're talking an actual race series, a racing program.
And I'm talking national
level,
coast to
exactly,
coast.
because there's
coast to coast too,
right.
Because the Manufacturers Cup's been going forever.
You have Manufacturers Cup has been going on for a long time. You have regionals such as Route 66, which is into year, I believe, 16. And other programs just like that. I mean, even Pro Kart Challenge has been going since 2005. So that essentially is one of the longer programs in the country as well too. So the California-based one, that is. To see a national level program series championship go this long, it has been hasn't had that happen for a very long time.
Second visit to Utah as well, David, for the SuperKarts USA Pro Tour. You and I, you were pulling out the information throughout the weekend about the fact that we were there in 2012 for the Summer Nationals, bringing out the fact that Matt Johnson, actually, who ran X30 Master and dominated X30 Master this past weekend, was the tag senior winner back in 2012. We were going back to a lot of the guys who had won back in 2012.
Not to mention Ryan Poole winning there in S4 in 2012, coming back, being the local guy, coming back and running the G1 category this weekend. Jake Craig, Austin Garrison, and Christian Brooks, they all won Rotax national championships there at the facility as well, too. So a number of events, as you talked about Stars of Karting, we can even go back into there with like Gary Carlton and all those guys winning there. I didn't even go back to see who won at Miller Motorsports Park for those programs, but I'm sure a handful might have been participating in that as well too.
I agree. Now, David, you and I, we go to a lot of racetracks, say, man, this is such a beautiful place to be. Sonoma Raceway, obviously, Sim Raceway Performance Karting Center, that gorgeous look out over the valley there and over the water. This racetrack has got to be one of the most picturesque in North America, with the mountains that surround, Dave, the Great Salt Lake out to the north there. Everywhere you look is the snow-capped mountains. We come in the first week of May. Damn, Terry Bybee went skiing on Monday. He came out, the former SCUSA race director came out. He lives in Salt Lake City. He came out to visit. He went skiing on Monday.
On Sunday.
Sunday too, you're right. What a beautiful place.
I think that's one of the things that we were hampered with in our previous visits to Salt Lake City and the Utah Motorsports campus was the fact that we went there in the summertime. So in the summer months, none of the mountains that surround the facility are covered in snow. So I think it really highlighted, the crazy weather that hits the higher elevations and how the mountains stay snow covered for a number of months, and like you said, are still being skied on, so which is crazy because it's May and we're talking about the Indy 500 coming up in a couple of weeks. So you don't think of skiing during the month of May. I think it definitely, if we are ever to go back again, I think the month of May is a good time to go, or even April, just because of as you said, the pictures that we were able to grab, like with On Track Promotions, getting a number of them with Todd McCall and Ken Johnson, and I tried myself as well. And it's just really cool to see, and I think that's if there's one thing that everybody got out of the event was getting the pictures of the mountains in the background.
Yeah, it's the shots that Todd and Ken were knocking out, and of course you did a fantastic job with your photography over the weekend as well. That's one of those pictures that you're going to blow up, right? Poster size and put in the office, because that shot, hammering a curb somewhere with nothing but mountains faded out in the background with the snow cap. Man, that's all the stuff that we saw on Facebook that, obviously On Track Promotions was pushing it out. People that had bought the photo packages from Todd, they were pushing it out in their own social media. Every time I'm scrolling through on the way home, right while we're at the airport, all you saw was these awesome pictures with the mountains as the background. Now, David, as well, anytime you come into a race weekend, especially when it's in the early parts of the year, in the spring, you never sure what kind of weather you're going to get. Are we going to get some rain? How warm or how cold it is? Like I said, I did Amarillo last year with the Texas Pro Kart Challenge. It was 106 all weekend. It was 85 on Monday. It's just, you never know what's going to happen with the shifts in the weather. We hit it pretty good. It was super cold in the morning on Saturday morning, like 49 degrees, but we got up to 70. We got up to 72 degrees. It wasn't quite as cool in the morning on Sunday. 72 degrees in the afternoon. For all intents and purposes, blue skies all weekend, a little bit of cloud, other than the big black clouds that came in and kind of gave us a bit of rain on Sunday when we all wrapped up. Just gorgeous, just a gorgeous weekend.
Well, when you say a bit of rain, it did actually thunder and lightning, where the fact the SCUSA crew was out on the track cleaning up a lot of the stuff that was out there. They actually called them back in because the lightning was a little bit too close to risk anybody getting shocked. But yeah, it was not the best cleanup situations for all the teams and racers trying to pack away everything while getting drenched with rain. But luckily it held off until the last checkered fell, because that senior race, man, I was almost thinking it might have fell because you're sitting there and you're looking at the west and you could see this little patch of rain falling. It almost looked like it was like 10 feet wide from where we were standing, but it looked like it was coming directly towards the track, but it eventually moved up north away from the track. But it was really cool to see. But it just, as the event went on, and it was 25 laps, which means about a half-hour long race, and you were just thinking maybe the last 10 minutes are going to be in rain.
One thing for sure is I'm not sure how many promoters are going to want you to come to the racetrack anymore, David, because I believe, as you put in your notes here, you are now 6 for 6 for rain in 2019.
Now, I will preface that the Tucson one was just like a sprinkle, like a quick dusting, nothing serious.
Rain is rain, David.
But
you were the rainmaker.
It was precipitation that fell from the ground, or fell from the sky down to the ground. So it counts.
For the 6th straight weekend. What's wrong with you?
Wow. I don't think it rained in Daytona, so I ended 2018 strong.
All right. But you've come out of the box wet.
But yeah, it's just like my jumper, yo.
Wow. All right. Let's look at the numbers as we always do here in the overview. And again, we welcome you all to the EKN Debrief, episode number 48. It's May 7th. David and I back in the office. Actually, Dave's got an extended run in the office. His next race, not until now, the USPKS event in June. Me, on the other hand, I'm on the road tomorrow. I head down to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the Road to Indy and IndyCar races, the Grand Prix weekend. Back home for 4 days. I've got 4 podcasts already lined up for next week for the EKN Radio Network, and then back down to Indianapolis for 10 days for the qualifying weekend for the Indy 500. And, of course, the Road to Indy events, the Freedom 100, the races at Lucas Oil Raceway for USF 2000 and Indy Pro 2000. And then, of course, again, fortunate to be part of the IndyCar Radio Network for as a pit lane reporter for the Indianapolis 500. David, let's look at some numbers. 185 entries, the lowest we've had essentially the first time under the 200 entry mark since the 2015 Spring Nationals in Phoenix. A drop of really just 20 drivers overall. We were 205 drivers at the Winter Nationals at Cal Speed, 185 this particular weekend. And in looking at the numbers, Micro Swift actually up 4 from 9 up to 13. Mini Swift down 2. KA100 down 1. KA100 Senior was the same. X30 Junior down 4. The Masters the same. We had an X30 Master 8, X30 Super Master 4. The same 3 drivers coming for S4 Master Stock Honda. We had 1 extra driver, Ryan Poole, for the G1 Gladiator class. Pro Shifter actually down 5. That was probably one of the bigger ones. That and X30 Senior. Pro Shifter down 5. They had 13 drivers in Cal Speed, more of the local guys. And of course, no local racing really now to pull on in Utah because the Utah Kart Championship not actually running now at the facility. We'll talk more about that later on, David. You can bring that up later. Pro Shifter 1 and Pro Shifter 2. It was actually the Pro Shifter 2 drivers that were down 5. Pardon me, the semi-pro drivers. Down just 1 in Pro Shifter. But then it was X30 Senior, David. They had 48 at Cal Speed and 36 for this particular race. Still a great field of 36 drivers, but down 8. That was the big one. Overall, you can
12.
see.
Down 12, yeah.
What's that? Down,
do your math.
No, pardon me. Down 12. Down 12. You're right. No, sorry.
It's okay.
Down 12. That's the big one, right?
Yeah, because I was just going to get into that. That's the big one because we had some other classes cancel each other out. Now it was really the big one. And again, still you're going from 48 to 36, which essentially isn't that big of a drop off. So as you said, the down 20 isn't a lot when you look at it big picture, because typically that's what you get from going from round 1 and 2 to 3 and 4 is a little bit of a drop off. But it again, overall numbers, it all boils down to shifters. When you're looking at, 8 in one race group and 18 in the other, when compared to having that in one race group a couple of years ago. So that's essentially where you're missing numbers. And again, everything else is staying about equal. So.
And again, we talked to a lot of people about it, David, in the paddock about what the reasons were. Obviously, we could have a whole show on what's going on with gearbox racing within the SuperKarts USA program and even nationally in terms of where there are numbers, where there aren't numbers, what's kind of growing, what's not. SCUSA's committed to the 175. Drivers who race it love it. So I think you see that growing. I saw that Jordan Mustard posted something on Facebook about, just kind of overview of his weekend. It was a great challenge. When we get into the race report, we'll talk about how he was challenged by both Ryan Poole and John Crow aggressively this weekend. He made a mention that he expects to see double the numbers for the Summer Nationals. So I think he's obviously talking to some people. Maybe we're going to see 10 plus in the G1 Gladiator class. This 175 is going to continue to grow. More drivers, bring more numbers, more engines out there. It will continue to grow. But
I think you'll see a lot of. I think the Summer Nats are actually going to be our biggest event of the year when it comes to the SCUSA Pro Tour. You have a number of competitors who are just not coming from the East and going out west to Cal Speed and Utah. So that factors a lot into the overall numbers. And in those categories that are going to be elevated are probably the K100 categories, which are brand new to the Pro Tour program. Also the X30 divisions as well. But even in the shifter categories, there's a number of Midwest drivers now with the Great Lakes Pro Kart Challenge going on that are focused on that regional and are going to end it all with the Summer Nats, I believe the weekend after their finale. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Pro Shifter be at its highest and even Pro Shifter 2 probably be at its highest comes Summer Nats.
I think you're bang on with that. One of the other things, David, we talked about with a number of the people in the paddock guys in the industry was the simple fact that here we are, just starting the 5th month of the year, and a lot of the people that are, customers of SuperKarts USA or customers of national level racing, top level racing, these guys have been raced out for the first 5 months, right? There's the 2 SCUSA races in the winter, January, February. March was the Winter Nationals. Regional starting up in Texas and California and Great Lakes in April, late March and April. Just a lot of racing going on, and a lot of these drivers run different programs as well, whether it's running in the Rock program or going to a Rotax deal or whatever else they may do. F Series, USPKS, WKA. So much racing going on over the first 5 months. When you look forward now to the Summer Nats, remember there's a 2-month gap between Winter Nats and Spring Nats. The first weekend of March, first weekend of May. Now we have a 3-month run to the Summer Nationals. Even though we're kind of getting into the meat of the summer racing, a lot of the people that run nationally can kind of take a deep breath if they want, because if they're chasing the SCUSA series, they got 3 months to the next one. And then, of course, at that point, then we have another 3 months to the Super Nationals in November. They can pick and choose what they want to do, but if you're a SCUSA racer, you can take a deep breath and maybe run some regionals, run whatever else you want to run. But now we have a gap where they're going to be able to kind of take a deep breath and come back for the Summer Nats.
Yeah, there's no off season anymore, Rob, and that's kind of the it's a great thing, but it's also has its cons to it as well too.
Yeah.
And I think now that we're leading up to Memorial Weekend, it's now time for a lot of people to kind of sit back, relax, take a break from racing, or just recharge and get ready for the summer months. And as you said, you have a 3-month period now until the Summer Nationals for a lot of these, and there's going to be a lot of people in contention for championships. So a lot of time to prepare for that.
Folks, you're listening to the EKN Debrief, episode number 48. David Cole and I reviewing the 2019 SuperKarts USA Spring Nationals. We were at the Utah Motorsports campus this past weekend. Stick with us. When we come back after this break, we're going to jump into the paddock pass. David's got a bunch of information to give to you that we kind of got while we were working around the paddock. Not race report stuff, but more stuff within the industry and within the community. Stay with us. More to come. Episode number 48 of the EKN Debrief.
Top-level production with a focus on a single form of motorsport, karting. This is MG Tires. MG Tires USA, underneath the Vantage Karting Group banner, is the official distributor of the MG Tires brand for the United States. MG Tires are used as the official spec tire in the United States Pro Kart Series, the Route 66 Sprint Series, the Sunshine State Karting Challenge, and countless clubs across the country. No matter your compound preference, MG Tires USA has you covered. Whether it's the medium HCI Red, the soft FC Yellow, or the super soft Green YZ, MG Tires USA has your winning set of rubber in stock. For more info about MG Tires USA and its extensive list of dealers near you, check out their website at mgtiresusa.com. MG Tires, for the drivers.
Hey racers, this is Rob Howden, and I'm super excited to be back with the Texas Pro Kart Challenge family this year. Gina and Mark French put together a perfect 3-weekend series after listening to the racers, and with the season opener in Denton behind us, it's time to head to the incredible track in Amarillo in July. Then, we'll cap it all off again at the Jewel of Houston Karting, Speed Sports Racing Park in mid-September. Get the final 2 Texas PKC dates on your personal calendar, and I'll see you there. We're back racing on July 19th, 2021 at the Amarillo Kart Circuit. This track is a scale version of the F1 circuit in Istanbul, Turkey, and the drivers love it. It's certainly a venue to add to your bucket list. It's 2 full days of racing for Mini and Micro Swift, Briggs 206 Senior and Masters, KA100 Junior and Senior, X30 Junior, Senior, and Master, Stock Honda Senior and Master, and Pro Shifter. They're also adding a local option class for Briggs 206 Junior. Stay tuned for more exciting news. Come join the Frenches and I in West Texas in July. We're going to be racing, grilling, and enjoying the awesome Texas Pro Kart Challenge community. Welcome back to the debrief here on the EKN Radio Network. My name's Rob Howden, joined by David Cole, as we break down the Spring Nationals, 10th running of the SuperKarts USA Pro Tour Spring Nats at Utah Motorsports campus. Jumping now into the paddock pass, today presented by Acceleration Kart Racing. Acceleration Kart Racing has everything you need to go racing, from tires to helmets. They have a great website for you to order from, and kart racers ready to pick up the phone and answer your questions 6 days a week. With over 20 years of kart racing under their belts, Acceleration Kart Racing has the experience to help you succeed on the track. You can rely on them to get you the parts you need when you need them. Make Acceleration Kart Racing your go-to source for everything karting. All right, David, let's jump into this. A bunch of stuff to talk about. A little bit on track. A lot of overview of the weekend and what you saw. Let's kick things off with the paddock pass.
Well, I think we can start with kind of the news going into the event and something that we saw and kind of followed throughout the weekend were debuts for drivers with new homes. One of the big stories was obviously the release of AJ Myers leaving Croc Promotion USA and Matt Oldnut Racing. He found a new home at CRG and actually raced both Pro Shifter 1 and X30 Senior throughout the weekend at his new home with CRG Nordam. On the flip side, Jake French came back from being on the sidelines and back into the driver's seat, taking over Myers' role at Croc Promotion USA. racing both Pro Shifter 1 and X30 Senior. So that was kind of interesting to see. And it seemed like they never really got away from each other in both categories. They always seem to be right next to each other in both.
That's true. Additional drivers, obviously, that we thought was interesting. Braden Eves, who's the current point leader in the Road to Indy Cooper Tires USF 2000 Championship with Cape Motorsports. He was announced that he was going to be running with Crosslink Competition for the remainder of the SCUSA Pro Tour. Braden did a strong job, was in the top 10, just outside the top 10 for a majority of the weekend. And also, David, some pretty major news. You were able to put a story together about Brandon Jarsakrak as well, move for money.
Yeah, Money moved departed ways with Kart Sport North America and decided to go back home to Mike Doty Racing, where he first began racing nationally with Mike Doty and along with his father, Eddie. So they kind of went back home with Mike and had a pretty solid performance on the weekend, but still kind of up in the air on what they're going to do the rest of the season. They still are kind of juggling some ideas and opportunities that may come up in the future.
David, in the overview, we talked about how beautiful the facility is, and it's been a long time, 7 years since we were last there with the SCUSA Summer Nationals. I think you had pointed out that a number of our mini and micro drivers were like 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 years old when we were here last. A lot of people got their first opportunity to come to this racetrack, the Utah Motorsports Campus, and it's a gorgeous facility. The track is fantastic. Alan Wilson designed it. I'm not a huge fan of all of Alan Wilson's designs. This one here I really, really like. I think it's a solid racetrack. But the compliments, the feedback was just all positive.
Very positive. Not only the atmosphere of the mountains surrounding the facility, but as you said, the track itself and the facility being an actual motorsports facility, with real bathrooms, actual garages, and plenty of paddock space. Obviously, the one downfall was making everybody park outside, so they had to make the long walk or shuttle into the karting paddock, but it was just kind of the way that they operated things. And so that was kind of maybe the one downside to it. But the other downside to it is this could be the second to last karting event that they actually have at the Utah Motorsports Campus.
Yeah, we're hearing that they have a kind of more of a focus on just leveraging the track as a concession track, right? Essentially a rental, parties, whatever it may be, kind of deal. And we know that there's another event coming up that you can talk about in a second here in a couple of weeks. But after that, we're not really sure what's going on.
Yeah, the Utah Kart Championship really was home, or called the Utah Motorsports Campus home, and have been there essentially since the facility opened. It was used to race at Black Rock Raceway, which used to be built where the major car track is now. And that was demolished for the Miller Motorsports Park to be constructed. And the karting track was built on the north side of the facility. And so the Utah Kart Championship, it's been a couple other names since then, but now named as the Utah Kart Championship. It's been there since then. And, now the facility is under new management and new ownership. And they, as you said, have kind of looked at seeing competition karting as a way of losing money. And unfortunately, it obviously we don't agree with that. And a lot of the Utah racers are up in arms about it. And as I would be too, if it was my home track. And
indeed,
we're learning that there's different opportunities that may arouse for this program, and, temporary circuit may be utilized throughout the season for 2019. And then maybe a new facility might be built in the very near future.
Yeah. Again, there was a need for a track, as you had said, in Utah, and everybody got together and built Black Rock Raceway. And then, of course, that got taken over from Miller, but away we go. It's the one thing about the racers in Utah is that they are very passionate about what they do. There's obviously M Squared Karting is there with Bonner Moulton and Mike Beanie. These guys love this sport. They live it. Bonner Moulton's been to every Super Nationals. This is a guy that loves it, and Mike's the same way. And hey, that's what they do. Right? They're a kart shop. So what do we got to do? Let's rally the the guys in our program that have some cash to help put this together, and let's build another racetrack. So look for a rebirth, I think, right? In Utah, something different. So
yeah, we'll be keeping tabs with them and seeing what type of news comes out of the Salt Lake area for a possible new karting track.
Well, and add the note that the fact that Bonner Moulton's been involved in designing the last couple of SCUSA Super Nationals racetracks. The guy's now essentially a veteran kart track designer. So,
well, I believe he helped with the Black Rock layout as well too. So yeah.
David, one of the things we don't hear a lot about, we don't mention tire conservation a lot. You know, when I'm announcing races and when you're writing race reports, we don't talk a lot about people having to conserve tires. And we got that input very early during the happy hour practice, the final round of practice on Friday when we got Jordan Musser to come up and chat with us. And he talked about the fact that he thought some of the success that you were going to have was whether, you know, how you kind of took care of your equipment, your tires, everything throughout the day. You know, you get the one set of tires for the day, and you can't punish them hard in the pre-final and expect to be there at the end of the main events. And we'll talk more about some guys that battled with that and maybe didn't battle with that. But that was interesting. I thought that the fact that, you know, guys were going to have to really kind of take care of the equipment so they could be in the middle of a fight come main event time.
Well, I think there's kind of a couple parts to that. One being the long laps. I love these long lap races. 20, I think it was 25 laps for the X30 Senior, 20 laps for all the other categories, and a little bit shorter for micro. But not to mention the pre-finals being 12 or 15 laps as well too. So the long laps certainly helps. Not only you need to conserve tires, you need to conserve yourself and the engine as well too. But also really the track is what I think. Is what kind of was the proponent to tire conservation, because there's not racing going on at this track. So there's not rubber being laid down. It's basically a green racetrack.
Anytime we go to a facility, it's interesting because, you know, we don't talk a lot. We haven't done any real, you know, delving in deep about the way tracks are built. But, you know, some places you'll go to, depending on the aggregate they use, how fine the aggregate is, you're going to have a track that's not as porous as maybe another track that used a larger aggregate. So more aggregate gives you grip. If it's less, sometimes your tires aren't able to grab. We've seen that in car racing. We see it in kart racing. Once you get that rubber down, though, you can start to a certain extent filling it in, right? And this track hasn't been used as much as it has in the past. There was a lot of testing going on coming into this event, David, but you're right. We came in on a track that was essentially green. It hasn't been driven and run in aggressively, you know, a year and a bit, right? I don't even know how much the Utah Kart Championship was on it last year. They don't have fields of 150. So, you know, it just wasn't as used as you said. And with the wind and with the winter in Utah, that changes things on the racetrack as well.
Well, let's not forget salt. I mean, there's a lot of dust and particles that are getting blown around and all throughout the year, and snow. You know, it's actual. You know, it's a cold area during the winter months as well too. So, but I think, you know, the surface being, I think, the original since 2006. So it's been there a long time, and it kind of reminds me of Shawano, the U.S. Air Motorsports Raceway up in Wisconsin. Yeah. That's another facility that, even though it's run on a lot, it was very hard on tires and would, it would rubber up, but it was still dropping the tires down to, you know, nothing when it comes to the little nipple or divot in the tire.
Interesting, because that certainly played to part of the storyline on the weekend. Another one of the storylines was, and coming in, you know, at this level, we always hear, David, rumors about people thinking this guy's cheating or this guy's cheating. We know we had the issues at the Supernats a couple of years ago in the Mini Swift class that changed things in a big way. Superkarts USA getting really aggressive. I talked to Tom Kutcher and Lynn Haddock at the end of the day on Saturday and at the end of the day on Sunday, and they let me know that they are getting very proactive. You saw some pictures, if anybody looked at social media. On Saturday, all 5 motors, if you were in the top 5 in any of the categories, your motors were coming down to the crank, right? They ripped those motors down. They pulled them all apart, looked at everything. And you heard some input from some of the engine builders and the teams, like, what? You want me to do what on a Saturday? there were a lot of engine builders that had some late nights on Saturday putting engines back together, but SCUSA's trying to clear up that feeling or that perception, the optics that people are potentially cheating. They go essentially almost even one better on Sunday. And I just confirmed this with Tom Kutcher. They're packing up and they just got on the road out there. I sent him a text. He got back to me. They claimed all 5 of the winning IAME motors, the single speed motors, on Sunday. So one of the things about the claim rule is that, anybody can claim any engine, right? You can claim a guy's engine if you think it's better. You can claim that engine for X amount of dollars, and it gives him enough to buy a brand new one and get it prepped. SCUSA also has the caveat in their rules that they're also able to claim engines if they essentially if they think or the perception or the optics are that an engine potentially is better than all the other engines. They have the ability to claim an engine themselves and provide a new engine to that driver, to that team. They claimed the Mini, the Micro, the Junior, the Senior, and the Master engines. The 2 Swifts and the X30s, they claimed all 5 winners from Sunday, took those motors out of circulation, replaced them. Those guys are all going to get brand new power plants, but now SCUSA has those engines that they will keep. And I think, again, the concept is to let people know that they're being proactive and that some of these engines, the ones that won, that people, that David, one of the things about the sport right now is that when you have a claim rule like that, we got some rich dads and rich parents that they're going to drop cash down. They're grabbing everybody's motors, right?
Well, I think
right?
the one thing I think is great was the Saturday move was tearing everybody down. It's boom. Yes. On a Saturday, this is a pro tour. This isn't your club race. This isn't,
that's it.
Hey, we're going to mark it with nail polish and you can go carry on your business. No. And I think it's a little bit more respectable that some of these guys came back with an engine in pieces on Saturday and still came back putting that engine back together and winning again on Sunday, such as Norberg and Johnson and Iliff and Micro. So again, that kind of goes to say, hey, there's no magician here. There's no magic match perfect special stagger, whatever you want to call this voodoo that's going on with that people assume with engines. No, it's good drivers with good equipment that are able to do what they need to do to win. And again, yes, we had the issues that we had at Supernats a couple years ago. And yeah, there probably are some things that people are able to find to get maybe a little bit out of these engines, but there's nothing that's like it was in the old days where guys were getting a full second on a field type situation. We're not getting that. We're talking about tenths. And as we keep saying in the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy commercial, it's not the equipment, it's you. Get a couple tenths out of you. And I think that's where we're seeing, the good drivers stand out.
Especially, David, at a 18-turn track like Utah Motorsports Campus. If you are, if you're a half a tenth off, 0.05 of a second off in every corner, that ends up being 0.9 of a second.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's almost a full second off the pace if you're 0.05 off in every corner. So, like just work on the driver, as you said. But for me, in just stepping back and looking at it, an aggressive but positive approach by Superkarts USA to kind of try to quell some of the rumors and to show that they are, that they are focused and dedicated to making sure nobody's cheating, which I like. We all want a level playing field. We're on the one engine right now. It's not back to the days of tag, where is the track going to be better for the Vortex? Is it going to be better for the Moturi? Is it going to be better for the Rotax or the Leopard back in the day? No, now it's one engine. They've got a level playing field. If they continue to do what they're doing right now and really focusing on some aggressive tech post race, I think it's going to make a lot of people more comfortable in the investment that they've made.
And they need to continue it. Summer Nats, I think every engine needs to be in a box again Saturday as well too. All the engine builders are there, so there should be no issues with that. Parts are readily available with IAME USA right there, trackside all weekend long. So I think that's definitely something that needs to continue because again, this is pro level. This is the top of North America, top level racing of North America.
Agreed. A lot of money getting spent, so let's make sure we do it correctly. Dave, let's cap off this edition of the Paddock Pass, of course, presented by Acceleration Kart Racing here today. You've got some notes on a difficult weekend for some of the championship leaders. Some of them had good weekends. Some struggled. Other guys that had trouble at winter nats were able to step up. But talk a little bit about some of the championship leaders who didn't have really the weekends they probably would have liked to have had.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to look before we got into the race report was just kind of talk about, how it's going to be a pretty exciting championship coming down to the wire, because a lot of the guys who came out as the championship leaders after the Winter Nationals didn't necessarily have amazing weekends at the Spring Nationals, which we kind of see guys are able to win the championship in the first two weekends. So it's going to set it up. I think Bedojo, Musser, and Harrelson were the only three drivers who won at Cal Speed or came out as the championship leader, were able to win in Utah, and really only two or three others that were able to land on the podium. So again, a very interesting transition to go from Cal Speed to Utah, where again, as we talked about earlier, a lot of drivers have been, and so they either just weren't able to find the right setups or just didn't have the weekend that they hoped for. One of them being Christian Brooks in X30 Senior. He came in essentially taking over the championship lead with Joshua Carr not being there in Utah, as he had to go back to Australia, make sure his visa and passports were ready to go for the rest of the season here in his F4 championship hunt. So Brooks had a best finish at 10th, which in a field of 36, you might say, well, that's a good finish, but when it comes to championship time, that's not going to get you titles.
Other guys that had some trouble, you're right. Brandon Tyner for Allison Performance Group in X30 Junior. He was a point leader coming in. He was a 9th on Saturday, improved to a 5th on Sunday. Again, not the worst results in a big field of drivers in the the X30 Junior class, 39 in total, but not what you needed to take firm control of it. Same thing with Nick Persing in KA100 Senior, 6th and 10th. Trouble for Sebastian NG. He got a DQ on Saturday, came back to a 4th. There were just some drivers, another one, Derek Wang ended up 3rd and 4th on the podium, but then lost the podium and Vache Tatikian got him. He's 3rd and 4th after coming out with the point lead. And Matt Johnson turns it around. He sweeps the weekend. So what this kind of has done, difficult for some of the championship leaders, others stepping up. It's really just tightened everything back up again as we head to the summer nats.
Exactly. And that's kind of what I was leaning towards when we talk about that. And I think that's going to make a Newcastle weekend very exciting in terms of championship battles going on throughout the weekend.
Folks, you're listening to episode number 48 of the EKN Debrief. David Cole and I reviewing the most recent SuperKarts USA Pro Tour event, the Spring Nationals, which took place at Utah Motorsports Campus this past weekend. When we get back after this quick break, now it's time to start breaking things down. We're going to go into the race report and go class by class.
If you want to drive the best, drive a CRG. Our countless race wins and championships prove this fact, including taking the KZ Finals at the SCUSA Super Nationals and the CIK World Championships in both 2016 and 2017. Our material is second to none. After years of independent American importers, CRG is now managed directly by the factory and run out of our state-of-the-art headquarters in Texas. CRG Nordam is the American arm of the CRG factory in Italy, and we're serious about success. We stock a wide variety of parts in all of our chassis, from the CRG Hero for the mini categories, to the Heron for tag racing, the Road Rebel for gearbox competition, and the new FS4, which has been designed specifically for American 4-cycle Briggs racing. If you're ready to step up to the national level, do it with a factory race team that competes across the USA. CRG Nordam is a full factory effort with the best personnel and the finest equipment. We're serious about winning, and you should be too.
Joining the Rawlson Performance Group is the obvious choice to take your racing to the next level. Industry-leading driver development is provided by our staff of multi-time national champions, Super Nationals winners, and former Team USA members. And at the same time, RPG continues to be a national-level powerhouse race team. Our goal is to help you raise your game and win races. Rawlson Performance Group is setting a new standard with our in-house engine program, AVP Engines, headed by Alex Vincent. AVP has become the benchmark in the IAME X30 categories. We have the largest trackside OTK inventory, providing parts to racers and teams at all the major events in North America. RPG can also offer multilingual support, as we have French and Portuguese speaking staff. If you want to fight for championships or want to improve your skills and your chances to win, the answer is to call RPG at 503-260-4514. The Rawlson Performance Group. We race to win. Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network, our 48th edition of the EKN Debrief. David Cole, myself, Rob Howden, reviewing the most recent event on the SCUSA Pro Tour, the Spring Nationals, headed Utah this past weekend, as we jump into the race report, today presented by Trinity Karting Group. Trinity Karting Group is your first step on the ladder to racing success. Based at the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati, they literally have a track in their backyard and a controlled environment to help you develop your skills. Trinity Karting Group flattens out the steep learning curve with a professional staff that will put you on the right path. The focus is driver development, and they complete at the local, regional, and national levels. They have a new and used packages available, and they are your Midwest source for Tony karts and OTK parts, as well as IAME engines. Visit them at teamtkg.com or call 513-421-4463. All right, David, the race report presented by Trinity Karting Group. Let's jump in and start with X30 Senior. In the front, Ryan Norberg was the man, but just good racing all the way through. We saw some really aggressive racing, a lot of passes, but not so much up front.
No, not so much up front. Really at all on Saturday, as Ryan Norberg basically swept the day, going wire to wire on the day, with never relinquishing the top spot. Brandon Jarzakrak was really the top challenger throughout the day. Started second in the main event after finishing second in the pre-final, fell back to fourth, but Norberg got away quickly and early. Jarzakrak got himself back up to second, with Trey Brown also earning a podium finish on the weekend.
Really good run for Colin Neal as well, who joined Rawlson Performance Group earlier this year. Had a strong, solid finish. P4 for him, his best Pro Tour finish. But David, P2 was not the place you wanted to start main events in the rolling start classes here at the Spring Nationals. I know that you had joked with Brandon where he was going to end up after that first lap, because starting on the outside going into turn one was not great.
No, we kind of had a wager. I said fifth, but he was able to keep it into fourth, which again wasn't the best outcome that obviously he wanted to. But everybody knew it going into the weekend, that turn one with the double apex there. It's a very challenging section of the racetrack, especially at the start. Some drivers were able to hold at least maybe one position, maybe two, as Brandon did, but sometimes it was even more difficult, as Brandon found out on Sunday.
So first and foremost, Saturday, a very important recovery, kind of a comeback weekend for Ryan Norberg. Got to mention that this guy's a three-time defending SCUSA Pro Tour champion. He's won the last 3 years in a row. He's a perennial front runner, and he doesn't do it with like sweeping the wins, does he? It's all this. It's consistent results. Taking this package and whatever it can do, he's going to try to maximize it. This particular weekend, though, David, out of the box strong, all 320 points on Saturday. Qualifies on pole, that's 10 points. Wins the pre-final, that's 100. Wins the main event, that's 200. With the fast lap, another 10. So 320 points. You wonder whether or not he could keep that momentum going into Sunday, David, and he did. Qualified on pole again with a late run. Won the pre-final, won the main event. Just a stellar weekend for Norberg. Just didn't get it perfect. He didn't get the fast lap. Right to the very end, it was Emma Delatra. She had the fast lap of the race, and I think Jarzakrak stole it away late in the going. But the bottom line is, what was that 630 points on the docket on the board for Norberg coming out of Utah. What a weekend.
And it's actually the first time, I'm looking this up right now, I forgot to look this up earlier, that he's won twice in a SCUSA Pro Tour season.
I was thinking about that.
The first year he won, I'm going to go back into that, but But last year, yeah, he won only once, and that was at the Spring Nationals. And then in 2017, he only won once, and that was at the Spring Nationals as well. So let me go and find 2016.
You go find. I'll talk a little more about the race. So Thomas Naveau took the lead early in the pre-final. Thomas running for PSL karting on the Burrell Art, a former Supernats winner in I think the mini Swift class or tag cadet. Thomas was strong all weekend. He took the lead in the pre-final, as we said, but Norberg came through, was able to grab it. And then he goes wire to wire in the final. The battle behind was pretty exciting to watch. Jarsekrak again starting second, fell back to 11th. He scrapped his way back up, and as I said, got the fast lap of the race, ended up P4. Completing the podium behind Ryan Norberg, Jake Craig had his best run of the weekend. He was able to continually push forward. At one point, it was a Rawlison 1-2 because Norberg was leading, and Hannah Greenmeyer, the young lady for RPG who's developed so quickly over the last number of years, was good. She was very strong. Craig just able to get by, but Hannah holding on for her first career podium in the Pro Tour program. So great job for Hannah coming home P3. But David, give us the wrap on Norberg. It's amazing, like you're saying, a couple of wins there at the Spring Nats, but indeed never a double.
Well, yeah, 2018, 2017, he had one victory on the season. But yes, in 2016, he won 3 of the 4. But again, that was when the Supernats was the finale. So he essentially had the title in hand going into the Supernats, and I think ended up finishing outside the top 5, not landing on the podium in his first actual Supernats that year. But won the Spring Nats round 1 and then doubled up at the Newcastle for the Summer Nats.
So, folks, just the bottom line is just a great run for Ryan Norberg. He gets himself back into the championship fight. Maybe not even just back in. Maybe, hey, you know what? I got a hold of this thing right now going to the Summer Nationals. And that's the key. Going to the Summer Nats, you want to get yourself into a place where you can say, okay, you know what? This is what I got. And I think it's a ninth place finish after the penalty in round 2 at the Winter Nationals. That's a decent drop still for Ryan Norberg. He has put himself back into a pretty good position to potentially, David, take a shot at his unprecedented 4th straight championship. All right, Dave, let's jump into the Pro Shifter category because we had the Pro Shifter 1, Pro Shifter 2, ended up with 18 drivers in total on the racetrack. Pro Shifter 1, 10 drivers, Pro Shifter 2, 8. Put them together in a solid 18-car field with just tremendous drivers. What I kind of liked coming in, my thought was, what are we going to see at a National 1 and National 2 at CRG Nordam, right? You've got Kyle Wick, who's been on the CRG for the last couple of years, has worked with CRG Nordam. You got the incoming National number 1, AJ Myers, your reigning champion. He's going to run his first national race for the team. What's the atmosphere going to be like, between the two of them? Wick obviously came out and said, you know what? I'm going to try to take control of this team. I've been with these guys, and he qualifies on pole, wins the pre-final, but just not able to get off the line. Well, I was gutted for him when I saw him fall down the order. I think the 10th, at the start of the main event.
Well, I think watching the video of that start, he was lucky to not stall it. He kept it going, and luckily enough only fell down to 10th, because if he would have stalled it, he would have had the S2 guys coming from the back to the front, and then had to go through all those guys. So essentially he fell to the tail of the Pro Shifter 1 field. But again, just methodically worked his way forward after that mishap. But again, another mishap for Billy Musgrave, who inherited the lead after Wick was unable to get off the line. And Musgrave had an issue with his brake system and went off in turn 1 while leading the race.
As he goes off, as you said, with the brake issue, Matias Ramirez, who was putting a ton of pressure on him, able to slip through the PSL karting. Burrell Art driver, David, you had mentioned that I think the last time he had won a SCUSA race, a SCUSA National, was the Super Hats in 2019 in S2 when he was essentially making his debut in the shifter car category.
2016, yeah.
2016, pardon me. He stepped up, though, David, and put on a show. He was able to essentially run away with it, not just win, but he ran away with it. AJ Myers ran second, and I think this is where the excitement happened, because once Wick went back, we knew he had the pace. Well, he just, as you said, methodically worked his way forward, was digging in. Eventually was having some trouble. The engine started overheating a little bit once he had got to Myers, so that he thinks that probably hampered him a little bit, and potentially able to catch and make that move. Although he did try He did try late on the final lap, but in the end, Ramirez with the win, Myers second, and Wick in third. Still a pretty good run for both of the CRG drivers in second and third. Jake French was right there in the top five, fifth and sixth for all the whole race. I don't think they were happy with this. I think that they might have changed the engine. I know that Mark French told me that they're kind of working on trying some different chassis designs for Croc Promotion as well. And he ends up with the fast lap of the race. I think he finished fifth. But still a good debut for Jake French. Move over to Sunday, and AJ Myers stepped up, David, in qualifying at the end of that run and really kind of put his stamp on what I thought would have happened for the rest of the weekend, the rest of the day. It didn't, but in qualifying, Myers was quick.
Well, both CRGs were quick as Myers was able to score the fastest, and Wick was right there in second, so it was an all CRG front row for the pre-final. But it ended up being Wick scoring the win in the pre-final as he was able to get the whole shot and get out front right away. As really it was a really close field throughout that pre-final, setting up for what we thought was going to be an interesting final.
And it was Kyle Wick again not getting off the line well. Andrew Bedozo on the Croc Promotion able to get the whole shot. But talk a little bit about how that race kind of unfolded, because it was I found it pretty interesting. There was some great stuff later on. But the early couple laps are kind of exciting.
Very exciting. Bedozo was, as you said, grabbed the whole shot, but got shuffled back to fourth through that, I believe, what was turns 11 and 12. And those two combinations there as Ramirez and I believe it was both Myers and possibly Wick that were able to get by him.
Yeah.
But
it was aggressive.
But yeah, like I said, that the turn 11 to 12 gets, as you said, defensive moves and it's a tight corner for the shifters, so it's finding the right gear setting and all that stuff. But Andrew put his head down and fought his way quickly back into the lead, getting by Ramirez, and then those two kind of checked out as a battle for third really heated up and was kind of the focal point as Bedozo and Ramirez kind of just drafted away and got away from all the chaos behind them.
Yeah, but before we jump into that chaos, and we'll do that, I do want to say, I think for Bedozo, his win, of course, in the wet, very impressive, in the opening round of the series at Cal Speed at the Winter Nationals. But, when you win in the wet, it's, wow, fantastic. You're really solid. You're really good in the wet. Congratulations. But people want to be fast in the dry, right? They want to win that dry race, that outright speed. And I think this was just such a great what's the word I'm looking for? I think it was vindication for Bedozo to say, you know what, I'm here to run for the championship. This guy's a championship leader leading the Spring Nats going to the Summer Nats, and obviously joined the Croc Promotion team, Mad Old Nut Racing, for the Winter Series this year, and has been with the squad. Won there, wins again in the dry. I just think what an exclamation point on the weekend for Bedozo and for Mad Old Nut Racing and Croc Promotion. They're really trying to promote this brand. I believe I saw online that Andrew's cart's for sale. So it's the winning chassis is for sale if you want to get behind something that works. So Bedozo, as you said, with the win, and Ramirez finished in second. But the fight at the end was wild, because now a couple of interesting storylines. Kyle Wick ends up getting himself to third, but to third on track. But the driver on the move that we were watching was Joey Wimsett. Now, David, you can give some more insight, because he sat out the pre-final, which probably helped him, with the tires and tire conservation for the main event.
It did, but really, to be honest, we didn't even know he was going to start the final. And talking to his sister, Nicole, she didn't even know. She saw him with a suit on and was like, what the hell's going on? And he's like, oh, I'm just going to give it a go. If it hurts too much, I'll pull off.
And what happened? He hurt his ribs. So
right? Essentially, I walked by as the pre-final was going on, and he's standing on the fence, and I'm like, what happened? He's like, I busted my rib. It just hurts too much. So I figured he was done for the day. Anytime you talk about ribs, and you're kind of a one-off race, because he, again, didn't race at the Winter Nationals. So it was kind of a one-off for him. You think, okay, well, he's going to sit out and be done the rest of the day. But, he as I said, went out and started the final, and obviously it didn't hurt him too bad.
Dead last.
Started dead last and just not necessarily super quick, but just had the right momentum going, and guys battling left and right. He was able to take advantage of one guy here and another guy there. And all of a sudden he's in fifth, and then boom, right behind Wick there, as we're coming down to the final laps of the race.
The whole package was working. Rainey Pearson, Sweet Tech Power. They had Alan Shudo was working on the DR cart for him. It was he was kind of pitted with Keon Tandon, who was running in the category as well. And Joey, every time he caught somebody, he made the pass. He didn't wait. He was setting him up so that he was making sure that he would either have it in turn 11, the right-hand hairpin, they call the thumb. I'd turn 8 over the curb, you're flatted all the way to 11. He would either, the minute he got there, he was into the inside, or he set it up perfectly so he'd have the run down into turn number 1. And the passes came as soon as he got there. As soon as he got to Jake French, he went by in turn number 1. And as you said, last couple laps, he stepped it up, ran down Kyle Wick, and heading down to turn number 1, white flag lap, he makes the move down the inside, gets the pass done. Kart pushes a little wide because it's a downhill run, and if you miss it just a little bit with the braking zone being so short that you push out a little wide, Kyle tried to get back down on the inside, probably should have waited, caught the left front, and spun him around. Tough one for Kyle Wick with a DNF. He did not need that because even a 4th place finish would have kept him in the championship battle.
And it still might, again, because we don't know what's going to unfold at the Summer Nationals. And again, it's just a learning experience that Wick's going to have to kind of bite down and suffer through. But again, there's two rounds ahead of him. But again, a great drive for Wimset finishing up on the podium with Bedozo and Ramirez.
And again, Jake French fast lap. So they had that thing dialed in. Probably he's got to work a little bit more on consistency. But again, Jake's been out of the cart for quite a while. I think his last race was, as you said, running the Supernats last year in KZ. But he was quick, so I expect to see more of Jake French come Summernats time.
And aside from Musser being coming in and winning as a championship leader, I think Bedozo is the other championship leader that leaves still there with a 4th place finish on Saturday. Right. So essentially 3 podiums in the first 4 rounds. That's really good, especially in this pro shifter category, which is so tight with the number of drivers that are there fighting for every podium spot they possibly can get. So this, for him to go into what essentially is a home track for him in Newcastle, as a championship leader, it's going to be very exciting at the Summer Nationals.
I agree with you. Moving to Pro Shifter 2, Saturday essentially belonged to Race Liberante. Of course, a winner at the Winter Nats was leading in round number 2 when he got an incident, got into the wall. Qualifies on pole, wins the pre-final, wins the main event. There was a bit of carnage, but the driver who kind of moved in and stepped things up was Connor Robles. Great job for the driver out of Temecula, California. David, right out of S5 last year, first podium for Connor. P2, they were pretty pumped up about it, but he ran great. He was right there, finished second ahead of Calvin Ming, but was putting down the kind of laps you need to be able to get on the podium in Pro Shifter 2. Yeah,
to enable to finish on the podium, first must finish. And he was able to do that and run, as you said, consistent laps, and actually was ahead of Calvin Ming, who finished on the podium at the Winter Nationals. So Ming ended up on a second podium, but really kudos to Robles for getting that runner-up spot.
On Sunday, in the Pro Shifter 2 class, Max Hewitt laying down the fast lap. He also was the fastest in the pre-final and scored the victory there. I actually, with all the excitement we were watching up front, I wasn't paying close enough attention to actually what happened. I know that Liberante ended up with a broken throttle. He was actually leading, I think, at one point with about 5 laps left. But it was Mark Snyder that actually came out with the victory. The brother duo, the Snyders out of Texas, big one for him, and to score a huge win over Max Hewitt.
Yeah, it didn't seem Hewitt had the pace in the main event. Not sure if it was tire related or just some type of wrong setup change or something that was amiss, because he just didn't seem to quite have the pace that he had earlier in the day. And as you said, both Snyder brothers were able to be ahead of him. But Liam Snyder, who finished second, actually was handed a 10-second penalty for passing under yellow. So that elevated Hewitt back up to second, and then move Anthony Freeze up to third on the PSL Cambrian karting Burrell Art.
Good weekend for the Snyders. I think with Arcade Motorsports, I believe, is what they've got in the carts. What I like about it is they come in with their own livery. It's not like they're with a team or whatever it may be, or you're just running the stock chassis livery, whether it's Tony Kart, Burrell, whatever it is. These guys have their own. I love it. They have their own stuff, their own look. And man, they were fast. I'm really hoping they come to the Summer Nats. I know they do a lot of Formula car racing as well. I really hope they come to the Summer Nats. They were a great addition to the Pro Shifter 2 field in Utah. I hope they come to Summer Nats.
Yeah, the graphics kit looked amazing, and big win for Formula K. It's been a while.
True enough. Mark Snyder with the win, Max Hewitt second, and Anthony Fries in third. In G1, I think it's the EKN visor strip that does it for Jordan Musser. He always wears the E-Cardity's visor strip. But dude, he was super strong again, right? Just didn't win all 3 sessions because Ryan Poole qualified on pole on Sunday. But on Saturday, Musser with the quickest lap, wins the pre-final, and wins the main event. But it's not like the storyline that we've had in the other 6 races, the 6 races, Winter Series and the Winter Nats. Musser was pushed hard all weekend by John Crow and Ryan Poole.
It was like Crow and Poole were his shadows because everywhere Musser were Crow and Poole, and you weren't quite sure who was going to be up to the challenge to kind of challenge and or attempt to pass Musser. Nothing really happened Saturday because, as we said, Musser kind of swept the events, but it was Ryan Poole that actually had fast lap of the main event on Saturday. That carried over onto Sunday.
Yeah, but both Crow and Poole had the faster lap in the race, right? Than Jordan, I believe. And yes. Crow kind of stepped things up late in the race, was able to slide through to get P2. It was a great run for him. But as you said, Ryan Poole, I talked. Something happened to the chassis. It was quickly in passing when I was running back to the booth. Something happened to his chassis that bounded up a little bit. I think I want to say that maybe one of his tires might have pushed in. One of his hubs might have slid in. I'm not exactly sure, but something happened. But he kept it going on Sunday, as you said. Actually qualified on pole, and I think Musser qualified third. I think Crow was second. Was he not?
Musser qualified third. Crow was able to be second, and Poole being first. It was the first session, on-track session, including qualifying, pre-final, final, that Musser had not been P1 throughout 2019. Yeah. So Poole wins that trivia contest.
I just like the fact, you add Ryan Poole. Hopefully Ryan's going to come out with the crew to the Summer Nationals. And it says Jordan had said somewhere on Facebook, I saw that he's expecting to see double the turnout. So are we going to get 10, 12 drivers potentially in G1? I hope so. But Crow and Poole definitely stepped up, made it super exciting for us. Poole actually jumped out to the lead and led most of the final, if I'm not mistaken.
Led almost the entire pre-final, but Musser was able to get around him there with, I believe, 1 lap to go. So Musser grabbed that win. And then again, Musser was out front, grabbed the whole shot, and was leading, led the entire final. But Crow came again, had that tire conservation thing going, didn't quite burn his tires up in the pre-final, and had maybe a little bit extra in the final and used it to try and get by Musser there on that last lap.
Let's talk about that. In the 12-lap pre-final with Poole leading and Musser in second, Crow was right there for the longest time. I think he was probably waiting for it to happen. If Jordan goes by, I'm going to come by with him. But then with about 4 or 5 to go, I think he realized, hey, you know what? He just checked out. He actually got way off the throttle as lap times following by about 5 or 6 tenths of a second. He kind of cruised around and took care of the tires for the final 5 or 6 laps, maybe the second half of the pre-final. And that really paid off. And Jordan talked about this after the race. Really paid off when they went to the main event. And at the end, those last handful of laps of the 20-lapper, he was the guy. He was the fastest guy on the racetrack, and he was eventually able to reel in Poole and make a last lap move for second. So he makes the move for second, and then he makes the move for the lead. And there's contact over in turn number 11. That's gotta reset my mind. What do you think of that move?
Well, it was, I think, basically Musser went to the defensive line and Crow decided didn't think he was going to block and ended up blocking and just, contact happened.
Just a little contact.
It wasn't major. No, it was enough. It was enough to throw Crow off his line and then shoot him straight into past the braking zone. So he kind of overshot the apex, and that allowed Musser to continue on, and then Poole slide right through for second. And so again, Crow will tell you that it was a racing incident. There's nothing deemed wrong or unsportsmanlike. It was everybody going for the same piece of real estate.
Well, and kudos to John. because Crow got a big, big run. He left enough gap, right, coming through into the box, which is the 6, the right hand turn 6, double left 7, 8, and then the right hand kind of turn 9. You got to get up and over the curb and turn number 8, and you're full throttle all the way to 11. And he got a huge run. And as soon as as soon as he came out of the chicane, 10A and 10B, he shot all the way across the track and was almost in there. Like he was in, but then Jordan had kind of come out of the corner and he was making his move across to run that defensive inside line. That's where the contact happened. And kudos to John, because again, you're into the braking zone and you're flat out from 8, like you're trucking. I'm not sure what the speeds are going into there. And he obviously kind of got messed up a little bit, late on the brakes and kind of pushed up the track. Didn't go off, saved it, brought it back around, but both Jordan and Ryan able to get through. Just for us on the sidelines, it was super exciting to watch, I thought. 3 drivers putting on a great show. Some of the best racing we saw all weekend.
Well, sometimes it only takes 2, but this time we got to see 3 drivers going at it.
True. In the S4 category, a quick wrap, Brett Harrelson was qualified on pole, won the pre-final, and I believe he won the race on track as well, but was penalized back a spot. Ken Schilling getting the victory, Harrelson second, Miguel Garcia in third. On Sunday again, Harrelson quickest driver in qualifying. Something happened to Harrelson, I believe, in the pre-final. Schilling won that, and Harrelson came back and he won the race. Schilling second, Garcia third. That's the S4 Master stock Honda class. X30 Master now, David. Derek Wang having a good run at the Winter Nationals, came in as the point leader, but the bottom line is Matt Johnson, you brought this up early in the broadcast, that he had won the Tag Senior race, not Master, Tag Senior race back in 2012 at the Summer Nats in Utah. Flat dominated the weekend, winning every session, fastest laps. He flat dominated the weekend and is definitely back in the hunt for the championship.
Not only in the hunt, but leading the championship, obviously, with a clean sweep. Maximum points on Saturday, as you said, leading qualifying, winning the pre-final, and then just wire to wire in the final over Jess Peterson and Derek Wang. But Johnson became the third different winner with that victory on Saturday, so we were hoping to see maybe a fourth. But again, Johnson was way too strong on Sunday.
Talk about Sunday a little bit. Again, Johnson doing everything he had to do. Early in the qualifying run, though, I think part where the storyline kind of swapped was Peterson rolls in front of us, 2 laps in, or maybe a lap. I think he might have got 1 lap in. Ends up qualifying last in the field and in that X30 Masters class. Overall, 12 karts, 8 in Masters, 4 in Supermaster, but Jess had to start at the very tail of the field. Able to work his way forward, ends up P3 in the pre-final, and then goes racing from there into second. So it's Johnson out, Peterson second, strong. But the exciting part of that race was Vacic Tatikian. He was on the move. Midway through, that thing kind of came alive, and he actually was able to reel in Derek Wang and pass Derek Wang, and then almost got by Peterson.
Yeah, it was very close. I think maybe if he had 1 or 2 more laps, it could have been an interesting fight down to the wire for that second position. But Johnson was just on cruise control throughout the main event, and Wang didn't really have anything for him. And Peterson had a little bit more at the beginning, got out to the second spot. But as we said, he probably had a little bit too much tire degradation, and that allowed Tatikian to kind of close that up late going on and getting by Wang, and then almost getting by Peterson for that second spot.
Yeah, Jess had to push pretty hard in the pre-final to get himself back into a place to battle it, and not even just a place to start, right, David? It was getting those points he needed, and because we talked about this, I talked about it a lot on the broadcast. Yeah, you're trying to move forward if you've had an issue and you're starting at the back. You're trying to move forward because you really want that better starting spot for the main, but there's 100 points up for grabs. It's 100, 90, 80, 70, so on down. One spot's 10 points. And you don't think about that when you're on the racetrack so much. It's like, where am I going to start? But when you get to Sunday and you're like, man, I'm 5 points back, or I lose a championship by 5 points, all you would have had to do is pass somebody in the pre-final, and it would have changed your championship. I think the way the Scuzas got their points program set up is perfect, and it means you have to push in every session to get every spot you possibly can.
Yeah, and we'll see how things shake out, because really it's these 4 guys that are really going to be in the hunt for the championship. Obviously, Johnson with 2 big rounds in Utah going to probably take over the point lead. over Derek Wang, and Jess Peterson's going to be right there with 2 runner-ups in Utah. And then round 1 winner Vache Tatikian getting another podium finish to go along with his victory in Cal Speed. So those 4 guys are going to be the ones to watch at Newcastle.
Agreed. Let's wrap up this particular section of the race report. I'll do a quick one through the X30 Supermaster category. We had 4 drivers. John Persing essentially dominated the weekend. He won all 6 of the sessions, but was right in there in the middle of the battle, too. He was scrapping it out with Jonathan Silva, with Tim Meyer. He was battling it out with the Masters drivers, too. In the first day, Steve Martin finished second and John Roos in third. Same podium on Sunday. Martin much closer to Persing in the main event, pushed him around pretty much for the majority of that 20-lapper. John Roos, again, the local driver, capping off the podium. A perfect score for John Persing on the weekend. He takes, obviously, a strong position as the point leader in X30 Supermaster. All right, folks, final break I think we have here, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, final break, folks. We're going to wrap it up with the final 5 categories. Then David and I will have a look at the EKN Trackside Live race calendar, tell you where we're going to be going in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll wrap it all up, essentially, with the finale. We'll talk about the Constructors' Championship, and we'll talk about just what we saw and what we're looking forward to seeing in the next event. Stick with us, folks. More to come. The race report, the second half here on the EKN Debrief. For over 25 years, Superkarts USA has been changing the face of American karting. The debut of the SKUSA Pro Moto Tour in 1999 totally transformed national-level karting in the U.S., and now the current Pro Tour is enjoying its unprecedented 10th season of competition. The SKUSA Pro Tour is the longest-running coast-to-coast national series in the sport. Nothing else has come close in the last 30 years. The Pro Tour is exciting, hardcore racing. The foundation of Superkarts USA is its regional programs, and we welcome all racers to come experience our style of events. Our flagship region is the California Pro Kart Challenge, a 6-weekend series that races from April to September from Fontana to Monterey. The Texas Pro Kart Challenge is in its 8th season and is in the middle of an exciting 6-race, 3-weekend schedule that takes drivers to Denton, Amarillo, and Houston. And new for 2019 is the return of the Great Lakes Pro Kart Challenge, where SKUSA was born and raised. The series features 4 weekends at Newcastle, Norway, and Road America. We'd love to have you experience our product, and we hope to see you at a future Superkarts USA event. To learn more, head to superkartsusa.com. Attention karters of the Midwest. Superkarts USA is back. The SKUSA Great Lakes Pro Kart Challenge kicked off the season on a high note at Newcastle last month, and we're now looking forward to the next event at Concept Haulers Motor Speedway in June. The venue, which many still refer to as Norway, is a legendary track in SKUSA history, and we'll be back to fire up the action on the June 1st and 2nd weekend. This is your chance to run all the SKUSA categories in X30, KA100, Mini and Micro Swift, and of course, it's SKUSA, where SKUSA was born. The shifter karts will be front and center. The Great Lakes Pro Kart Challenge will be your place in the Midwest to race stock Honda, KZ, and the awesome new IAMI SSE 175cc shifter. Finally, Midwest racers can compete in a SKUSA Regional Series, and if it's your goal, prepare for the National Pro Tour. Follow Superkarts USA's newest regional program on Facebook at SKUSA Great Lakes PKC and on Instagram at SKUSA Great Lakes. Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network. My name's Rob Howden, joined by David Cole. This is episode number 48 of the EKN Debrief. Dave and I, midway through, I would say, our review of the Superkarts USA Spring Nationals, rounds 3 and 4 of their Pro Tour here in 2019. David and I just got home from the Utah Motorsports Campus in Erda, Utah, as they call it now. We used to call it Twilla, but now they're using Erda as the home of the racetrack. David, let's get back in here. Trinity Karting Group, the presenting sponsor of our race report, this particular event. Let's jump into X30 Junior. Big field, great drivers, guys that we've seen in X30 Junior, a lot of great drivers coming up from the Mini Swift category as well, but the juniors put on a fantastic show.
It was a good show, a big field, as you said, but really it was one driver that kind of stood out throughout the weekend, and that was Freddie Slater. The British driver came over racing in the junior category for a second time, raced at the Winter Nationals and Cal Speed, but just really shined throughout the weekend, especially Saturday, sweeping the event in the category, setting fast time in qualifying, winning the pre-final, and then again scoring the victory in the final after holding off Kiffin Simpson and Dale Curran. But it was actually a penalty for Kiffin Simpson, who recorded the fast lap, penalized for contact, which put him down to 6. And then that allowed John Burke to join Slater and Curran, our round 1 winner, on the podium. So another good finish for Burke, good finish for Curran, who was desperately needed that after a tough round 2 to put himself back in the points chase. And then Slater becoming the third different winner in the category.
And we had a bunch of categories with 3 different winners. I think that speaks to the competition level, right? You never know who's going to step up. Now, we'll talk about Sunday because obviously Slater stepped it up and got his second win. But a lot of different winners in a lot of different categories. It's just showing us how competitive this championship is.
Exactly. The Pro Tour that's I think kind of when we talked about the championship leaders having issues, it's because we're seeing a lot of different drivers step up and be able to contend for victory rather than seeing really dominant performances aside from Norberg that we saw on the weekend and Matt Johnson. But, Cal Speed with the weather definitely helped throw bone in there for a lot of different drivers and kind of shuffle things around. But again, as you said, Sunday was a kind of a different story and for the X30 junior category.
Kiffin Simpson qualifying on the pole position, so he bounces back after that penalty. Freddie Slater then, of course, came out and won the pre-final, again, very strong. The race itself didn't go the full 20-lap distance. We had a red flag after 14 laps. There was an incident coming out of turn 4. Someone drove over the top of Cole Morgan, and I'm told that he kind of came out of the cart and came back down hard and was complaining of back pain. And anytime we have a driver complaining of back pain, especially if they're in their younger categories, whatever it may be, you complain about back pain, they're going to go yellow. We went full course yellow, eventually pulled out the red because you want to get the EMTs out to them, make sure everything's fine. Checking out some social media right now. Looks like he's going to be okay, potentially just a pinched nerve, I think, for Cole Morgan, who otherwise had a great weekend. He was fast. He was running 4th at the time, but David, the red flag came out and, 14, 15 laps in, only 5 to go. Scusa says, you know what, we're past the halfway point. We'll call it. And again, for Freddie Slater, he ends up with the victory. Josh Pearson in second, and Ignacio Montenegro ended up in third.
Yep, it was actually Jason Luang was second in the actual running order at the time of the 14 laps, but a pushback bumper penalty dropped him down to 11th because again that lead group was so tight and a lot of drivers were in the hunt as we were coming down to the final circuits till that red flag came out. Obviously, Cole Morgan being one of them, and then another being Brandon Tyner, who I believe was involved in that red flag, but continued on, but was able to be put back to 5th because of where the running order was at the time of the red flag. So the last completed.
Going back to that last completed
lap. So Tyner
Yeah.
in that championship hunt definitely benefited from that.
Moving on to the KA100 junior class. I'm just going to say this right now, David. The KA100 junior classes, both junior and senior, really good racing. Everybody was so close. It was these 6-7 cart packs battling up front. It was fun to watch. Really, though, the kind of the class of the KA100 field had to have been Brent Cruz. Qualified on pole on Saturday, pre-final on as well. Ends up scoring the race win. He and Cole Morgan pulling away. They had a great battle for the last lap. But Cruz in the Kart Sport North America Kart Republic was just on point all weekend in KA100 Junior.
Yeah, we had a bet going to see when Cruz was going to try his move for the lead, and what corner it was going to be. I said turn 11, you said turn 12. He proved both of us wrong and made that pass in turn 1 and was able to hold on to secure the victory.
It was the patience, right, that we've seen, David. You and I have watched over the last many years. You've been with me for 15 years. We've seen so many great races. And it's when you start seeing the drivers really understand not just the racecraft, but the race strategy. When they realize that the key to winning is getting with the leader or being the leader, whatever, getting with the leader and pulling away, making it a 2-driver battle, because it's so hard to pull away yourself in that category unless the kart's perfect. But Cruz just sat there on Morgan's rear on the bumper and just went to work, right? Went to school. Where am I faster? Where can I make the move? What line do I have to take to be able to get the run I want? And as you said, we thought it was going to be 11 or 12. It ended up being turn number 1, but just a great run for Cruz to get that first victory.
Yeah, and the type of situation that we talked about when there's more, when you're not racing just one driver and it's more than one, kind of played out in the pre-final, and we'll talk about that a little bit later.
So Cruz with the victory. Cole Morgan ends up in second, obviously stayed right there. Caleb Schrader for Rawlson Performance Group, a strong run for him, ends up in P3. Rye Myers actually with the fast lap of the race. But then Cruz kept it going. Qualifies again on pole on Sunday, David.
Yeah, it was Cruz out front leading the field to the green flag in the pre-final, but everybody kind of picked up their pace in the pre-final to keep up with Cruz, and he wasn't able to get away. Neither was Morgan. Those two were kind of battling for the lead on the final lap when they made contact through the S's after turn 12. That kind of shuffled things up as they both pushed out and allowed a group of drivers to come through, led by Kiffin Simpson, who grabbed that race win. And both Cruz and Morgan ended up outside the top 5.
They got penalties. I think they got rough. Did they get avoidable contact penalties?
No, they just both had contact and went off track and continued on. So I'm pretty sure I don't believe there was a penalty, but Morgan wasn't able to start that main event because he was involved in that red flag in X30 Junior,
which was the first race of the rotation.
Exactly. Yeah. So Morgan was a DNS for that category, but Cruz was able to continue on and put on a good show in the final.
Yes, Cruz with another win and fast lap of the race. So he obviously your point leader. He's the point leader, I believe, coming out of the race. Connor Zilich in second. No, he's not.
No, because Cruz was not at Cal Speed.
He didn't run the Winter Nationals. That's right. Yeah. So who's the point leader? Have you figured it out yet?
Well, Ethan Ho won both races at Cal Speed. Was able to finish what I say the best was maybe a 5th. He had a 6th and a 5th. So really
2 wins and a 5th.
And then Cole Morgan being a DNS in round 4. Kiffin Simpson probably has maybe the best overall record, but again, he didn't quite have an amazing Cal Speed weekend as well too. So that category is kind of just out in the open, really. So who knows who's going to be leading that?
Can Cruz sweep the Summer Nats and win? I'd like to see if that could happen.
Well, he's taking
1-0.
It depends. Right? It depends on having guys having 2 bad rounds, because obviously if you have 1 bad round, you drop that. But if you have 2 bad rounds, then that's a possibility.
So again, just to wrap up, Cruz with the win, Connor Zilich in second, Diego Laroque coming in there to third, had a good run on Sunday and was able to work his way up into the P3 position in KA100 Junior. Let's move to KA100 Senior. 3 more categories to wrap up here in the race report, brought to you by Trinity Karting Group. Nick Ramirez coming out of the box strongly, David, as the top qualifier, but he spun while leading the pre-final, which kind of changed the complexion of that race.
Well, as we said earlier, that turn 1 complex is very tricky. We had Musgrave go off while leading in Pro Shifter. We had, and then earlier in the day, we had Ramirez do the same thing, and they weren't the only ones. I mean, there was a number of drivers that just struggled with the long straightaway going into the double apex turn 1 complex. It was a very, very tricky situation.
So Joshua Fine and Blake Hunt good all weekend long. Austin Osborne, talk about a little bit about what happened to him on Saturday. Was very similar to Jess Peterson, right?
Saturday, Osborne had an issue with his brake system on qualifying, so basically came from last on the field, and then worked his way all the way up through the field to win the pre-final and cross the line as the winner, but was docked 3 positions for what he considered to be not a jump start.
Well, he came and talked to us afterwards. He had some issues with the brakes, as you said, and he figured it out very early in qualifying that this thing's just not working. Something's wrong. I think the master cylinder was leaking or something like that. So he had to start dead last in the pre-final, as you said, worked his way forward, got docked the spots for the jump start, and you never know what's going to happen. He's telling us he timed it perfectly. He says, it may not look that way in the video, but I timed it perfectly. So he was standing by that. In the end, though, David, talk about the race and Joshua Fine and Blake Hunt.
Yeah, in the race, Osborne was up there with Fine, who won the pre-final, and then Blake Hunt. So it was a kind of a 3-driver battle until Osborne kind of came off, was a little bit off pace towards the end. So Hunt was leading with Joshua Fine right on his bumper. The two kind of went back and forth on the last lap, and Fine was able to pull the over-under move on Hunt in turn 12 and secure the victory for the local driver.
We saw a lot of those passes, right? Because when you block, it's turn 12 is an increasing radius corner where you keep bringing it around to turn 13, and guys would block on the inside, go a little wide. The guy challenging would go way wide and get that big turn, a big arc, and we saw a bunch of guys make that that over-under move to be able to get the pass. And indeed, Joshua Fine with the win. Blake Hunt in second with fast lap. He'll take those bonus points. And Austin Osborne in the third position. On Sunday, Osborne coming back. Obviously, he's trying to recover. He knows he's got a shot at winning this championship after scoring a victory at the Winter Nats. He qualifies on pole, but after some issues on Saturday, Walker Hess arrived on the scene in the pre-final.
Yeah, Hess was top 5 speed throughout Saturday, but really found the speed overnight and was able to jump out to the front and win the pre-final. And then it was a 4-driver fight in the main event with Hess, Hunt, Fine, and Osborne. All 4 kind of mixing it up early on. Hess and Hunt were really the quickest of the 4 drivers that were out front. But it was really Hess that was able to just kind of pull away and maintain that gap over Blake Hunt, who scored the fast lap of the race. So another 10 bonus points for him. And then Joshua Fine finishing third for a second podium on the weekend. So a great weekend for him.
Let's talk a little bit about the wild opening lap. It was interesting because I always want guys just to kind of relax a bit at the start. I realize you want to get aggressive and you're trying to find spots, but on a track like this, if you're fast, you're going to the front. I don't care what it is. Well, the opening lap for turn 1, 2, then 3 and over to 4, man, guys were just, they were driving on over top of each other. It was crazy. Someone drove over top of Ryan Poole. I believe Nick Persing was trying to make a move to the inside, coming out of 3 over to 4. Contact. They went over top of each other. Or Persing went over top of Ryan. Poole's off the track and done. Persing, who comes in as the point leader of the weekend, ends up suffering a bent axle. He's done. Again, just one of those deals where you kind of throw away a race on the opening lap. It's never made sense to me.
It really started on the opening lap as after they came through 12, because I happened to be out there, and we'll share a photo of one driver going over Nick Poole or Ryan Poole. So they all kind of bunched up and they're all trying to get around Poole because I think he kind of bogged out of the corner. So it was 2 by 2 for like 10 guys, the rest of the field essentially, because the other 4 were able to get away. And so they came onto the straightaway, and it was Nick Martin who just almost basically launched as he was a fighter jet pilot taking off.
Evil.
And so I have a great image of that. And then, as you said, then it continued on with Persing getting into Poole down there at the turn 3 section on the second lap.
Okay, and that's the interesting part of the race, that track, right? Coming out of 12 and 13, you go through the 14-15 combination, which is a right-left like kind of S's, and then you go through the kind of double right-handers to lead back over to 18. And I remember everybody stacking up in there.
Yeah,
and
nobody was giving up any room to anybody.
No, on the opening lap, right? And they're all driving on top of each other and getting in the back of each other. And again, that's right. Then it ends up being Nick Martin who drove over top. That's right. Another driver who had some issues, Austin Osborne, settled in to what probably would have been a solid position. I think he was running in third spot, ended up getting a flat tire. He tried to drive it around as much as he could with that flat tire, but he was a couple seconds off the pace. Everybody ate him up, and finally they gave him the meatball flag. But a tough one. That'll be the drop for Austin Osborne. He's like a lot of guys that we saw have issues here in Utah. He's going to have to be perfect. He cannot have a DNF or a bad race at Summer Nats if he wants to win a championship.
Exactly.
Moving to Mini Swift right now, David, Kai Sorensen has kind of been the guy to watch in this Mini Swift category. His third year in the class. He'll move to X30 Junior this year, so he's trying to win this championship. He ends up qualifying on the pole. But talk a bit about the pre-final, because it was kind of interesting the way things shook down. That this field was super tight. Kai was strong, but this field, qualifying was important. It was just super tight all weekend.
It was very close. He had a great Saturday, but that pre-final, they kind of stayed with each other and weren't as the K100 senior guys were not mixing up when they shouldn't be. And so luckily they waited till the last lap. Jack Jeffers pulled off the victory, dropping Sorensen down to the 4th spot.
At the start of the main event, Sorensen fell back to about 6th position, was able to fight his way back to the front. There was still quite a ways to go. I think 5 laps still remaining in the race. When we went red flag, we had an incident on the front straightaway involving John Antonino. John was fine, which was great, but I think he said he had bit his tongue or something like that. And so again, we go red flag, and they decided to shut the race down well past the halfway point.
Nope.
What?
It was lap 5 when the red flag came out. And
pardon me.
Yep, lap 5 when the red flag came out, and then for Antonino. And then, we had an incident as the red flag came out, which involved Ethan Ayers getting run over by another driver. Because again, many drivers don't understand that dual yellow flags means slow down. Red flag means the race is not on anymore. Slow even more down.
I talked to Ethan afterwards, him and his dad, and he said that he probably has never been hit that hard.
Yeah,
because he came in, had the hand up and was stopped, and essentially the driver just didn't even slow down.
Well, he still had marks from his neck brace being stretched, over his, I don't know how those new neck braces work, but you could see, kind of an outline of the pieces that come together, the straps somehow, I don't know how they work, but it left a mark on his neck. Ouch. From getting hit so hard.
Yeah, it was.
So yeah, it was not a good hit. And obviously that driver was removed from the race because of the contact. And then again, medical attention for him and John Antonio.
All right. So wrap things up here, David. You're obviously watching.
So the race gets restarted after 5 laps into it, cut short to 13 lap total.
David gets the benefit. David gets the benefit of writing the race report to remember this. I'm trying to go off what I was announcing all day long, but good for you. Keep going.
Yeah. So that's why I wrote in the notes, race was cut short to just 13 laps after red flag on lap 5.
You're right, David. Sorry.
But it's okay. Nobody reads anymore, right? They just look at the headlines and then continue shuffling through their phone.
Trying to work what I can do here. Sorensen with the win. Let's just put it.
So after the race gets restarted, Sorensen gets out to the front and has his teammate Anderson Leonard behind him, and they go out and finish 1-2. Christian Miles ended up winning the battle for 3rd.
What I thought was kind of wild on Sunday, Sorensen, of course, comes out and qualifies on pole using the draft. I think it might have been Gaffera he used the draft on, but he got a good draft, like 0.2 faster than the field in the final circuit. But wow, pre-final, right? Everybody comes out for the pre-final. It's a 10-lapper for the category. Everybody's in position. They're working their way out of out of 11 through turn 12. All of a sudden, Sorensen pulls to the right and stops, dead stick.
Yeah, they think it was something electrical, either with the shut-off button or just something in the electrical that
he tried to get it refired.
Yeah, it wouldn't allow the engine to refire.
So the pole sitter in this huge field is going to end up having to start at the tail. And so we knew we'd have something to watch coming through in the main event. But in his absence, Caleb Gaffera stepped up big time in the pre-final and was able to go to the front and pull away and grab that race win. Pretty impressive for Gaffera to be able to get that win and then start on the pole position for the main, although it wouldn't pay off as issues with his engine sent him kind of just tumbling through the field.
Yeah, he got out to a big lead on the opening lap as they shuffled up behind him. But once the gremlin struck his engine, it kind of hampered his pace. Like every other lap, it seemed like it cleaned itself out, and then the next lap it was bogged down. So It was a really a struggle main event, which could have been a big victory for him, or at least an attempt at a victory for him. Ended up being a bad finish for him, but that allowed Enzo Delini and Christian Miles to kind of pull away. They became the lead duo and racing for the victory, and it was kind of a chaotic last lap for them.
Yeah, Miles was doing a great job trying to hold him off. I believe Delini took the lead. I think Christian Miles took it back. Did he take it back? No.
Well, they kind of went back and forth through 11 and 12. Yes.
Delaney took it in 11. He got the inside at 11. Christian did the over-under in turn number 12 and 12 to 13. He takes the lead again, coming through the S's, through the right-hand turn 15 or 16, 17, but left the door just open enough, and Delaney jammed the Tony Kart to the inside. He actually was able to come out of the final corner. I think the Miles, in fact, even got shuffled off a bit into the gravel a little bit, but he opened the door. Delaney went in, and he was actually able to score the race win. It was a wild, from 11 to 18, those 7 corners were super exciting to watch.
Yep, and a great drag race to the to the stripe, and again, we couldn't really see it because we had the tent, the concession cart tent overhanging, so we couldn't see that last corner and see the actual move that Enzo pulled off. But a great way to grab your first Pro Tour victory.
Dave, talk a bit about Sorensen coming through the field. He was definitely the man on the move, able to get up to 6th, but well,
it all started really with him involved in the turn 1 incident.
That's right.
He was actually probably 2 to 3 seconds off the tail of the field by the time they came around for that first lap of the final.
Probably 6 carts involved in turn number 1. He got collected in that, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And who knows if he had nowhere to go or what happened, but it didn't seem like the damage anything to his machine, because he was definitely on the move with fast laps of the race, and knifed his way all the way up into the 6th position, but obviously a pushback bumper penalty. Sometimes you don't quite get through cleanly, dropped him down to 9th.
Again, to wrap that up, as we said, Enzo Delaney with the win, that last corner pass over Christian Miles. Parker DeLong coming home to end up in the 3rd position on Sunday. Dave, let's wrap up the race report with Micro Swift. A pretty good battle throughout most of the weekend with James Moss and Jack Iliff. They were together for a lot of that race. Moss was on pole on Saturday. Jack Iliff winning the pre-final. But really, in truth, Jack Iliff kind of handled the entire weekend.
He did. He was basically the driver to beat. Moss was obviously the top challenger, especially on Saturday. Was right there with him throughout the main event. Actually picked up the fast lap bonus points, but didn't quite have enough to beat Iliff to the checkered flag.
Truly Adams coming home in the 3rd spot. Good run to P3, final position on the podium. Adams actually able to get 3rd in the final lap, getting past Graham Trammell. On Sunday, David, all Jack Iliff, he was able to pull away. Could have been interesting, actually. Logan Chambers, who came in as the point leader, round 2 winner, he and Moss were trying to close back up. They were kind of working together to try to close back up on Iliff, but they both spun coming through turn number 8. The high-speed spin kind of in unison. They went around, falling to the tail of the field. They fought their way back. Chambers actually got the fast lap of the race. But in the end, Graham Trammell finishing 2nd. Alfie Slater, Freddie's brother, actually coming up to 3rd.
Yeah, great weekend overall for Iliff. Definitely going to be leaving as the championship leader with those 2 victories, and obviously getting those points in pre-final and qualifying bonus points as well too. But again, that category still might go down to the wire depending on what happens in Newcastle.
Agreed. All right, folks, almost done this edition of the EKN Debrief. Let's jump into the EKN Trackside Live race calendar presented today by Comet Kart Sales. History, success, family. These are the 3 words that describe Comet Kart Sales, one of the longest tenured karting businesses in the United States. The family-owned operation is located just outside Indianapolis and has provided karts, parts, and services for thousands of racers in the near 6 decades of business. Their online store features everything you need, and they are continually adding new parts to their product line. Make sure you head to CometKartSales.com or call them at 317-462-3413 to be part of the Comet Kart Sales family today. All right, David, a quick run through where we're going to be. We actually have a bit of a break now, essentially a month before we're heading back out for the EKN Trackside Live tour. June the 14th, 15th, 16th, you are heading to GoPro Motorplex in Mooresville for the Carolina Grand Prix, the 2nd of the 3 stops of the United States Pro Kart Series.
It'll be rounds 3 and 4. Those 7 IAME categories will be battling again at GoPro Motorplex, which the series has visited for all 7. This was 7th year. Yes. No. 3, 4,
you're
5, 6,
you're home for what, 3 days? We'll do a debrief on the Monday, or we'll do a debrief on the Tuesday. Laundry, repack. You're heading down I'm pretty jealous. You're heading down to Charlotte Motor Speedway for the WK Charlotte Motor Speedway Karting Challenge. Big event for WK, part of the Manufacturers Cup.
It should be an exciting event. You got all three programs running at the same time with Manufacturers Cup Series on a temporary circuit using the infield part of the Roval. You have the National Road Racing Series using the oval and part of the Roval part infield course for their track, and then Dirt Speedway over at the dirt track across the street on a revised, smaller oval for them to compete on. Hopefully, we'll be under the lights, so I'll be able to head over there and check that stuff out for their main events.
Once again, folks, EKN Trackside Live. It'll be Tim Coyen on the mic at the USPKS race, Eric Brennan on the PA at the WK Manufacturers Cup. You'll get that all at ekartingnews.com/live. Make sure you tune in to get all the action from both the USPKS and the WK Manufacturers Cup. David, let's wrap up this edition of the Debrief. We'll look at the Constructors' Championship as we always do. 10 different brands winning. Tony Kart, though, the big one. They got 7 victories, winning in X30 Junior, both events. They won in KA100 Senior, both races in Mini Swift, and both races in Micro Swift as well. Pretty good weekend for Tony Kart.
Yeah, very good weekend. Again, that's why they're the multi-time Constructors Championship, EKN Constructors Champion, since dating back to when? 2013, 2012, maybe.
Yeah. Nash Motorsports grabbing 4 victories for FA. They won both races in X30 Master and both races in X30 Super Master, so they dominated that particular race group. Burrell Art with 3 wins. Matias Ramirez in Pro Shifter 1, and of course Jordan Musser in the G1 Gladiator class. 3 victories for Cosmic as well. Couple victories for Kart Republic, thanks to Brent Cruz. Croc Promotion, of course, with 1 win. Comp Kart with a victory with Race Liberante. Croc winning with Bedozo. Formula K with Snyder, Illuminos with Schilling, and CRG, the 1 win on the weekend with Britt Harrelson in the S4 category. 3 different wins, or 3 different brands, but again, Tony Kart, David, as you said, super strong again. Numbers,
but it's good.
Numbers breed wins.
But it's good to see that we had 10, again, different brands, so double digits for the number of brands that are scoring victories at the Pro Tour.
All right, folks, let's wrap things up. David, what do you think for summer now? It's probably the biggest numbers we're going to see all year.
I think so. I think we're going to have probably the biggest event of the season next to, obviously, the Super Nationals. But the biggest Pro Tour event, I think, will be Summer Nationals coming up. And I would really like to see, they brought them to the national level with the Pro Tour and USPKS and WK. I would really like to see the KA divisions break the 20 driver mark, because with the number of drivers that have these engine packages along the eastern half of the country, I really think that a 20 driver in both junior and senior is possible.
That's the target. I like it. 7 drivers doubling up on the weekend, folks. In the win column, the championship chases are going to be very interesting when we get to the series finale. And, of course, that is the SCUSA Pro Tour Summer Nationals, the 10th edition of the Summer Nationals, August 9th, 10th, 11th at Newcastle Motorsports Park in Newcastle, Indiana. Of course, David and I will be there. Alicia will be with us as well for our social media coverage. All live on the EKN Radio Network, and we hope that you join us for that one. That's 3 months away, though. We got lots of racing before we get to the Summer Nationals, and everyone getting a chance to settle in. David, final words to cap off this edition of the Debrief?
Yeah, as you said, 3 more months till we get back to the SCUSA Pro Tour, but again, a lot of racing going on. We got tons of club, regional, and other programs that are going to be going on during the months of May, June, and July.
We do appreciate everyone listening to the EKN Radio Network. Thank you so much, folks. David will be prepping up the main event play-by-play from the Spring Nationals. That'll be on the EKN Radio Network coming up, so look forward to that. We'll get this particular podcast up streaming on the EKN Radio Network, and then David will produce it for the podcast that you'll be able to get through iTunes or Google Play. You can always listen to our stuff on Podbean and on Spotify as well. And, of course, you can either download the EKN Radio Network app to your mobile device or on your desktop or laptop, ekartingnews.com/radio. Folks, thank you so much for joining us. A long edition here. Well, almost probably closing in on 2 hours. So much to talk about with the Spring Nationals, rather. But David Cole and I and Alicia Hodap had a fantastic trip to Utah. Miller Motorsports Park is what we used to call it. It's now the Utah Motorsports Campus. tremendous racetrack. Hopefully, but not likely, we'll be able to be back there sometime in the future. We'll see what happens with the SCUSA Pro Tour. And again, another event coming up soon for that track, the Stars and Stripes Trophy for the U.S. Rotax program. Folks, we are done here on the EKN Debrief. Again, thank you so much for joining us. On behalf of David Cole, my name is Rob Howden. Bye for now.